Well, yes, Lord.
They've got many, many different books in their canon that are different to even Catholics and Protestants.
I won't go in great depth, but you have the YouTube channel, the blogs to confirm what I'm about to say. God Logic has done sessions on it, David Wood. What he fails to note is that in his Islamic history, according to sources that he deems to be authentic, during the caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan, the Muslims almost came to blows because Muslims of different communities were being taught the Quran from different companions of Muhammad. And these companions had memorized the Quran and wrote down the Quran from what they learned from Muhammad, but they did not agree. The differences were so vast among them. In fact, this is found in Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, number 510 in the old numbering, which you can read on sunnah.com. There were Muslims from Iraq, Muslims from Syria. Those from Iraq had learned the Quran from Abdullah ibn Masud, a companion Muhammad. Those from Syria had learned the Quran from Ubay bin Ka'b, another companion Muhammad. Now, these were the two men out of four that Muhammad said, if you want to learn the Quran, learn it from them. But the Muslims in Iraq, when they started reciting the Quran, they were reciting verses that the Muslims from Syria did not know. And then when the Muslims from Syria started reciting the Quran, they were reciting verses that the Muslims of Iraq did not know. So they accused each other of corrupting the Quran. So then the general, Hudhaifa, sent word to Uthman, Uthman, do something. So according to Islamic tradition, Uthman standardized a copy of the Quran that had been written down by Zayd ibn Thabit during the earlier caliphate of Abu Bakr. But Zayd had converted Islam years after Abdullah ibn Masud, who had become a Muslim in Mecca. Zayd was one of what they call the Ansari, the helpers. And when Uthman ordered that everyone follow this Quran compiled by Zayd, many of the companions of Muhammad said, well, no, Abdullah bin Masud was one of them. He said, wait. I had already learned over 70 chapters of the Quran from Muhammad long before Zayd had even dreamed about being a Muslim. I was taught the Quran from Muhammad. And Muhammad even mentioned him as one of the four to learn the Quran from. So he refused. And it says, according to Islamic tradition, Uthman despised him. And when Abdullah bin Masud was summoned to Uthman, it says Uthman insulted Abdullah when he entered the mosque, and Abdullah insulted him. And then Uthman instigated a mob reaction. They beat up Abdullah, resulting in his ribs being broken. Now, notice what Uthman is ordering. He is ordering the very Qurans written down by Muhammad's companions, written down by men whom Muhammad said, learn the Quran from them because there's no one more qualified. He's ordering to gather them and burn them and destroy them, Arabic Qurans, because they were so different and contradictory.
Wow.
Now, here's where the canon comes in. Remember, the Quran comes through one man. Because when we talk about the Bible, Christians remember this argument. This is where the Muslims are being dishonest. The Bible is a collection of books written by different people, different time, so that there would be some difference and confusion around, circling around some of the books. That's to be expected. If you have 73 books written by different people at different time periods, we would expect some disagreement or confusion regarding canonicity. However, if you have one book that comes through one man, there should be no dispute. And yet, Abdullah ibn Masud, he had only 111 chapters of the Quran.
Wow.
He said, chapter 1, Surah Al-Fatiha, the last two chapters are not chapters, they are prayers. Ubay bin Ka'b, the other man, he had 116 chapters. Here it is. Sahih Bukhari. Narrated Masruq, Abdullah bin Masud was mentioned before, Abdullah bin Amr, who said, this is a man I still love. Why? Why do you love Abdullah bin Masud? Sahih Bukhari, volume 5, book 58, number 153. And I quote Sahih Muslim as well. As I heard the Prophet saying, learn the recitation of Quran from four. Abdullah bin Masud, he started with him. Salim, the freed slave of Abu Hudhaifa, Mu'ad bin Jabal, and Ubay bin Ka'b. Ubay bin Ka'b said that there's actually 116 chapters of the Quran. 2 extra chapters than what Uthman standardized, because in the Uthmanic one, you have 114. So now notice this hypocrite. Muhammad's own companions who learned the Quran from Muhammad, when they wrote down the Quran, contradict each other. The number of verses a chapter had and the number of chapters. Abdullah bin Masud said 111. Ubay bin Ka'b said 116. Uthman went with 114. And in some chapters, Abdullah bin Masud had more verses than in the other chapters. And Ubay bin Ka'b had more verses than in the other Quranic collections. So that you see why they almost came to blows, because they're accusing one another of corrupting the Quran. How come you didn't mention this?
Of course, it's not convenient for him.
Brother, I only limited myself to the Qurans compiled by Muhammad's companions. If I go then into the history of the text, even to now, right now, you have at least 14 different Arabic versions of the Quran, and they add 3 more for good measure. The Hafs, the Duri, and the Warsh, and so on and so on. But anyway, for sake of time, we get.
Oh, yeah, no, this is a great point. Let me try and see if I can summarize it very briefly. You've got even early Islamic sources that will indicate that there are document disagreements among Muhammad's companions regarding Quran's recitation and content. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, it was actually Mimi Nikab, Mohammed Hijab, who started a worldwide catastrophe as he interviewed Yasser Qadi, and he asked Yasser Qadi, if you write down the Quran right now, could you then write it down? And he goes, oh, don't push me, because this is a very complicated topic and this is something we need to talk in private. We can't just say it because it's very nuanced. And Yasser Qadi was forced to come out and say, there are holes in the traditional Islamic narrative about the preservation of the Quran because it's much more complex. And that went viral and caused an earthquake in the Muslim world because Yasser Qadi pretty much admitted that this traditional standard Islamic narrative, the Quran has been perfectly preserved. Every jot is a lie. It's much more complicated. There's a lot of serious issues, a lot of serious challenges, and it rocked the Muslim community to the point that Mimi Nikab turned against Yasser Qadi, threw him under the bus, and the Muslim world had to go into damage control.
Wow.
Narrated Anas bin Malik. Hudhaifa bin al-Yaman came to Uthman at the time when the people of Shem, that means Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, the Levant. And I'll get you the link, brother. Save this nation before they differ about the book as Jews and Christians did before. Oh, isn't that his argument against the Bible, that Christians differ?
Yep.
How come he didn't mention that?
Not convenient to his narrative at all.
So Uthman sent a message to Hafsa saying, send us the manuscripts of the Quran. Now, if you don't know who Hafsa is, guys, Hafsa is the daughter of Umar, who was a wife of Muhammad. Umar is the second caliph. So when Abu Bakr, the first caliph, who was also Muhammad's father-in-law, because it was the first caliph, had told Zayd, write down the Quran so that we can have a copy. That copy remained with Abu Bakr. When he died, Umar became the second caliph. That copy remained in his possession. When he died, his daughter, Hafsa, inherited it, Hafsa being Muhammad's widow. So he's saying, tell Hafsa to give us the sheets of that Quran. Send us the manuscripts of the Quran so then we may compile the Quranic materials in perfect copies and return the manuscripts to you. That implies that these manuscripts she had needed updating. But that's not where it gets bad. Hafsa sent it to Uthman. Uthman then ordered Zayd ibn Thabit, the man initially told by Abu Bakr to compile a Quran, not the Quran. Abdullah bin Zubayr, Sayyid bin Alas, and Abdurrahman bin Harith bin Hisham to rewrite the manuscripts in perfect copies. Uthman said to the 3 Qurayshi men, that means they spoke Quraysh Arabic, a dialect. Yeah. In case you disagree with Zayd, now why? Because Zayd wasn't a Qurayshi Arab. He was from Medina. Qurayshi is the Quraysh tribe of Mecca. So if you disagree with him on any point in the Quran, then write it in the dialect of Quraysh. The Quran was revealed in their tongue. They did so, and when they had written many copies, Uthman returned the original manuscripts of Hafsa. Now watch what he did. Uthman sent to every Muslim province 1 copy of what they had copied, and even those copies had variations. They were not perfectly copied, and ordered that all the other Quranic materials, whether written in fragmentary manuscripts or whole copies, be burnt. Why would you burn Arabic Qurans written down by Muhammad's companions who learned the Quran from Muhammad?
Unbelievable. What a mess.
Yep.
What a total mess. And he even dares try to say that there was confusion because of a larger canon by the Ethiopian Orthodox. First off, he has no idea the way books are utilized liturgically. He has no idea the way the canon even works. For him to try to sow confusion, you're going to see in a moment that not only is he a fool when it comes to that, he is a complete fool when it comes to other issues as well.
And in fact, brother, here's what we need to emphasize, because when you talk about different canons, you're like, oh, wow. No. Look at the great unanimity. Guys, You're seeing here, what? Hold on. Even Protestants accept 66 of the same books that Catholics, Orthodox accept. Moreover, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible and the Eastern Orthodox Bible all include the same 73 books of the Catholic Bible.
That's correct.
So what is this guy on? Do you have such a high degree of agreement despite the fact that the churches are in schism. Who forced them all to accept the same 66 books if we include the Protestants, or the same 73 books if we go with the ancient churches?
And then the exact same number of books of the New Testament. You can look not only to the ancient apostolic churches, but Protestantism as well. Any Christian group, they accept all of the very same New Testament books. So, brother, I got to say, the man is a total fool.
When Jesus fell to the ground and prostrated, according to this theory, what's happening?
That looks like what?
No, he's praying to himself.
He prayed to himself in the garden.
But
I thought this guy was a titan.
This
brother.
is his argument?
He doesn't repeat it only one time. This is a knockout argument that we believe Christ fell, prostrated, and prayed to himself in the garden.
Okay, so do you want me to blow it out of the water now? Number one, Jesus praying to himself. He just likened the Trinity to water, ice, and vapor, right? In his analogy. So water is not the ice is not the vapor. Okay, I'm just going as an analogy. So then if you're admitting that the Trinity posits a distinction, so that in your analogy, water is not the ice is not the vapor, corresponds to the Father not being the Son not being the Spirit, did you just go back on your analogy? Because it's not the Son praying to himself. It's the Son praying to the Father. The term prayer, both in English and in the biblical languages, isn't simply worship God, worshiping a deity. The term prayer can also mean communion. It can mean conversation. It can mean fellowship. Yeah. Since the Son is not the Father, Father, Son, and Spirit all pray to one another because they're all in fellowship with one another. They're all in communion with one another. They all have intimate, loving, personal communion. Yeah. So they're all praying to one another. Does Allah pray? Chapter 33, verse 43. He it is, this is talking about Allah. He it is who prays, yusalli. The verb for prayer is salla. It says Allah prays for you and his angels too, to bring you forth out of darkness into the light, for he is merciful to the believers. Now, watch the genius of Muhammad, brother. It says Allah's praying and the angels are praying too. And what does Allah and the angels pray? To bring people into the light of salvation. Wow. And Allah be merciful to the believers. Now, chapter 33, verse 56. Verily, God and his angels, yusaluna, for the prophet, ala nabi. This was the verse that David Wood quoted. Yeah, it says pray for, not pray. That's what we said. Your God is praying for Muhammad. So when the angels pray for Muhammad, who do they pray to? Oh, say Allah. Then it says, oh, you believe, pray, sallu for him. Meaning, see, even angels and God pray for Muhammad. You should be doing the same. When you Muslims pray for Muhammad, who do you pray to? Oh, they'll say Allah. Then who does Allah pray to when he prays for Muhammad?
Well, yes, Lord.